Urgent, Chris Paul at the Lakers, stay until the end to find out everything. But first let me help you a lot, and sign up so you don't miss anything about the Lakers. At the age of 40, Chris Paul remains a marvel of longevity and consistency in the NBA. While many players fade into the background by this stage in their careers, Paul is writing a different narrative. After playing an entire regular season, 82 games, with the San Antonio Spurs, the veteran guard is now exploring his next destination. His focus: a return to Los Angeles, specifically wearing the purple and gold of the Lakers. This ambition was recently highlighted by renowned NBA insider Mark Stein, who reports that Paul has made the Lakers his top priority in free agency. Although the Dallas Mavericks have emerged as one of the teams expressing interest in the veteran point guard, league insiders are beginning to form a consensus. Chris Paul's eyes are set on the Lakers. The move would bring him back to a city that once served as a central chapter in his career. For 6 memorable seasons, Paul commanded the court for the Los Angeles Clippers, shaping the Lob City era and becoming a staple of the LA sports scene. Returning to this familiar environment, where his family is also based, seems to offer both professional opportunity and personal comfort. But it's not just about geography. One of the most compelling aspects of Paul's potential arrival in Los Angeles is his long-standing relationship with LeBron James. More than just colleagues on the court, Paul and LeBron share a deep personal friendship that has spanned nearly 2 decades. They were both born in 1984, and their careers have often run parallel. Despite facing each other 35 times throughout their NBA journeys, with Paul narrowly leading the head-to-head record at 18 wins to 17, they've never had the chance to suit up as teammates. That could soon change. The idea of Paul and James finally teaming up brings excitement not only to fans but to the Lakers organization itself, which has been searching for a stable veteran presence to complement LeBron and Anthony Davis. Paul's reputation as one of the most intelligent and crafty floor generals in the league would bring a new layer of poise and leadership to the Lakers roster. Over the course of his illustrious career, Chris Paul has proven time and again that he can adapt to different roles and systems. While he started every game for the Spurs last season, Paul has also shown a willingness to embrace the bench, particularly during his stint with the Golden State Warriors. In that role, he served as the anchor of the second unit, ensuring the team didn't miss a beat when starters took a rest. And that's exactly what the Lakers may need. During the 2024-25 season, Los Angeles struggled mightily with bench production, finishing near the bottom of the league in points from reserves, averaging just 26.2 per game. Paul's presence could immediately address that concern. His ability to manage pace, facilitate offense, and provide veteran leadership would give the Lakers a reliable weapon off the bench, or a capable starter should the need arise. With free agency officially beginning on Monday, June 30th, Paul will become an unrestricted free agent, free to negotiate with any team of his choosing. The Lakers, limited in cap space, have access to a mid-level exception valued at approximately $5.7 million. That figure won't blow anyone away financially, but for Paul, this decision may not hinge on money. It's about legacy. It's about finishing a storied career alongside one of his closest friends. It's about returning to a city he once helped electrify, and this time, doing it in pursuit of a championship. For most professional athletes, the twilight of their careers is defined by diminishing roles and the slow fade into retirement. Chris Paul, however, is not most athletes. As he prepares to enter his 20th NBA season, Paul remains a relevant, highly sought-after figure, one whose legacy still has room to grow. What sets Paul apart from so many others is not only his talent, but his cerebral approach to the game. Even as his physical capabilities gradually shift, his mind remains razor-sharp. He reads the court like a seasoned chess master, always several moves ahead. That rare intelligence is a commodity every contending team craves, especially those with championship ambitions but lacking organizational consistency, like the Lakers. Despite his age, Paul's 2024-25 season with the Spurs was a testament to his durability and professionalism. In a league where rest days have become the norm, Paul defied expectations by appearing in all 82 games, an impressive feat for any player, let alone a 40-year-old veteran. He averaged modest numbers, but his impact went far beyond the box score, organizing young talent, mentoring rising stars, and providing structure to an evolving roster. He was the on-court extension of the coaching staff, the stabilizer during chaos. His time in San Antonio, however, always felt like a bridge, never a final destination. The Spurs, in full rebuild mode around generational talent Victor Wembanyama, offered Paul a stage but not a championship path. Now, freed from that temporary role, he is searching for one last opportunity to chase the only thing missing from his Hall of Fame resume, an NBA title. Los Angeles presents an intriguing stage for that pursuit. While the Lakers have experienced turbulence over the past few seasons, they remain within striking distance of contention. With LeBron James continuing to defy Father Time and Anthony Davis anchoring both ends of the floor, the pieces for a deep playoff run are there. But consistency, depth, and a seasoned secondary playmaker are sorely lacking. Paul checks all those boxes. Financially, the Lakers can't offer Paul a large contract. The mid-level exception of $5.7 million pales in comparison to what he once commanded in his prime. But at this point in his journey, money isn't the motivating factor. For Paul, the decision is deeply personal and rooted in the relationships he's cultivated over decades. His bond with LeBron James is central to that decision. Together, they've navigated the rise of player empowerment, taken active roles in off-court advocacy, and redefined what it means to be a modern athlete. Their camaraderie, formed long before either stepped onto an NBA court, now offers a unique opportunity, the chance to unite on the same roster, not as rivals or all-star teammates for a weekend, but as allies in pursuit of a shared dream. It's a scenario fans have imagined for years. The possibility of LeBron orchestrating the offense with Paul directing traffic beside him. Two of the game's greatest minds, combining experience and vision in real time. The potential synergy is electrifying, not just in theory but in execution. Moreover, Paul's leadership style could bring much-needed balance to the Lakers' bench. Young guards and developing players would benefit enormously from his guidance. His voice carries weight. His presence commands respect. And in a locker room often caught between championship urgency and developmental growth, Paul could serve as the ideal mediator. If a deal comes to fruition, Paul's role would likely be flexible. Some nights a starter, other nights a closer, always a steady hand. What matters most is his presence in high-leverage moments. When the game slows down, when decision-making is paramount, Chris Paul thrives. That's when his value is truly unmatched. In many ways, a move to the Lakers would represent a full-circle moment. From almost becoming a Laker in 2011, a trade famously vetoed by the league, to now potentially choosing them as his final team, the symmetry is poetic. It's not just about basketball. It's about writing the final chapter of a storied career with intentionality, purpose, and a shot at immortality. Before they were household names, before the championship rings and MVP debates, before the sneaker deals and international fame, Chris Paul and LeBron James were just two teenagers trying to navigate the uncertain path to greatness. They met during high school All-American camps, where the best prospects in the nation gathered not just to compete, but to be seen. From those early encounters, a bond began to form, one that would deepen over the next 2 decades. Both were rising stars in their respective states, Paul in North Carolina, James in Ohio, yet their paths crossed frequently. At age 17, they shared hotel rooms at tournaments, exchanged stories about family, and dreamed aloud of changing the league one day. What began as mutual respect quickly evolved into a friendship rooted in shared ambition, discipline, and trust. That connection only intensified as they entered the NBA. LeBron in 2003, Paul a year later in 2004. While they never played on the same professional team, they were often aligned in purpose. Off the court, they supported each other through milestones and setbacks. On the court, their rivalry was competitive but never bitter. Now, over 20 years later, their careers have reached a poetic intersection. Both are still productive, both still command respect, but both are aware that the window is closing. The idea of finally playing side by side, of turning a lifetime of friendship into a final campaign, is more than symbolic. It's about legacy, fulfillment, and writing history together. Their relationship goes far beyond basketball. Along with Dwayne Wade and Carmelo Anthony, the two formed what's been dubbed the Banana Boat Brotherhood, a nickname that became a cultural reference point. But while Wade has retired and Melo has stepped away from the game, Paul and LeBron remain active, a testament to their dedication and discipline. Now, as the last two standing, the chance to finally unite feels less like fantasy and more like fate. There's also a strategic element to their union. Paul's style of play, deliberate, precise, team-oriented, complements LeBron's all-around versatility. While LeBron excels in transition and thrives on creating mismatches, Paul slows the game down, organizes the offense, and ensures every possession has purpose. Together they could form one of the most experienced backcourts in NBA history, one driven not by ego but by shared vision. For LeBron, who has often carried the playmaking load on his teams, Paul's presence could be liberating. Imagine a fourth-quarter scenario. LeBron in the post, Anthony Davis cutting baseline, and Chris Paul directing traffic from the top of the key. The mere threat of that configuration forces defenses into difficult decisions. Paul's ability to run pick and rolls, find open shooters, and manipulate space would unlock new layers of the Lakers' offense. But beyond tactics and basketball IQ, there is something deeper at play: legacy. LeBron has won 4 NBA titles, but each one came with a cast of allies. He knows better than anyone the value of veteran leadership in a postseason run. Paul, on the other hand, has come painfully close, leading the Phoenix Suns to the finals in 2021, falling just 2 games short. The ring that has eluded him remains the one blemish on an otherwise immaculate career. And so, in this late stage, the mission is clear. Win together, not for personal validation, but to finish what they started long ago as teenagers dreaming big. Their careers have run parallel for decades. This may be their last chance to make those lines intersect on the court. For Lakers fans, the idea of Chris Paul finally in a Lakers uniform feels both fresh and long overdue. The 2011 trade that would have brought him to Los Angeles, only to be infamously vetoed by then-Commissioner David Stern, remains one of the great what-ifs in modern NBA history. Many believe that moment altered the course of several franchises. Now, over a decade later, the narrative has a chance to be rewritten, not through backroom deals but by choice. This isn't about a superstar seeking a payday or fame. It's about a man choosing brotherhood, closure, and one final climb up the mountain, with someone who's been beside him from the beginning. If Chris Paul ultimately signs with the Lakers, his influence will go far beyond points and assists. In fact, some of his most profound contributions may come when the cameras aren't rolling, inside the practice facility, in the locker room, during film sessions, and on late-night phone calls with younger teammates trying to make sense of the NBA grind. Paul is widely regarded as one of the greatest leaders the league has ever seen. Teammates from virtually every stop of his career, from New Orleans to Houston, Oklahoma City, Phoenix, Golden State, and San Antonio, have praised his ability to hold people accountable while also inspiring them to be better. He doesn't lead through bravado or volume, but through precision, preparation, and presence. The Lakers have long relied on veterans to set the tone for their roster. LeBron James has been the fulcrum of that leadership structure for years, but even he could benefit from reinforcement. With Paul in the fold, the team would gain another high IQ, no-nonsense veteran who commands respect not just because of his resume, but because of his attention to detail and commitment to winning. This is especially vital for a team with young talent still trying to find its footing. Players like Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and Max Christie, while promising, are still navigating what it takes to compete at the highest level. Having Chris Paul as a daily presence in practice, someone who can slow down the game and offer real-time teaching moments, could be career-defining for them. Paul has done this before. When he was traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder in 2019, many assumed he would be a placeholder, an aging star sent to a rebuilding team. Instead, he embraced the challenge and became a mentor to a young roster that included Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Luguentz Dort. Under Paul's leadership, that Thunder team exceeded all expectations and made the playoffs. He replicated that mentorship again in Phoenix, helping Devin Booker evolve into a more complete player and guiding DeAndre Ayton through the rigors of playoff basketball. Paul didn't just share knowledge, he demanded growth. And the results followed. The Suns, once mired in mediocrity, became title contenders overnight. The Lakers could benefit from that same alchemy. Though the team still carries championship aspirations, inconsistency has plagued the roster. Injuries, coaching changes, and underperformance have created a sense of urgency and uncertainty. Paul's arrival could bring structure, direction, and purpose. He wouldn't just be a contributor, he'd be a culture shaper. And that's not to say his on-court production is behind him. While he may not be the all-NBA force he once was, Paul remains an elite playmaker. His assist-to-turnover ratio continues to rank among the best in the league, and he's still one of the smartest defenders at the point guard position. His ability to control tempo, punish defensive lapses, and exploit matchups would offer the Lakers a level of precision they often lack in the half-court. There's also the advantage of having a second coach on the floor. Head coach Darvin Ham would essentially have a trusted lieutenant, someone who can implement strategy in real time, communicate effectively during high-pressure moments, and bring calm to chaotic stretches. This dynamic could prove invaluable during the playoffs, when every possession matters and every mistake is magnified. It's during those tense stretches that Paul thrives, when the lights are brightest and the margin for error is razor thin. But perhaps the most underrated aspect of Paul's presence would be how it affects the locker room dynamics. He's not afraid to challenge complacency. He doesn't tolerate shortcuts. And in a league increasingly focused on optics, Paul remains old school in the best way possible, focused on substance over style. For a Lakers team trying to rediscover its edge, Paul could be the catalyst. Not just a skilled backup point guard, but a tone setter, a communicator, a professional in every sense of the word. Someone younger players can emulate and veterans can trust. Someone who knows what it takes, and refuses to let standards slip. In short, Chris Paul would bring gravity. Not just the kind that draws defenders or stabilizes lineups, but the kind that commands attention, elevates expectations, and demands excellence. Bringing a veteran like Chris Paul to the Los Angeles Lakers isn't as simple as desire alone. In a league governed by complex salary cap structures, roster rules, and luxury tax penalties, every move has consequences. If Paul truly intends to finish his career in the purple and gold, the Lakers front office will need to carefully navigate a tight financial landscape to make that dream a reality. Currently, Los Angeles doesn't have the cap space to offer Paul a lucrative deal. Their only realistic mechanism to bring him in would be via the mid-level exception, MLE, a contract tool available to teams over the salary cap but still under certain financial thresholds. The non-taxpayer MLE for the upcoming season is projected to be around $5.7 million, far below what Paul has earned throughout most of his career. But money may not be the driving force. At 40 years old, Chris Paul isn't chasing max deals, he's chasing meaning. And in this context, the mid-level exception might be enough. If Paul's primary goals are to reunite with LeBron James, contend for a championship, and remain close to his family in Los Angeles, the financial sacrifice becomes strategic, not burdensome. Still, there are layers of complexity to consider. The Lakers must determine how Paul fits into a crowded guard rotation. D'Angelo Russell, though inconsistent, has played major minutes for the team. Austin Reeves has blossomed into a valuable contributor. Gabe Vincent is still under contract. Adding Paul means potentially reshuffling roles or making hard decisions about who stays and who goes. Depth charts matter, but so does hierarchy. If Paul is coming off the bench, he would need to accept fewer minutes, especially during stretches when LeBron is also on the floor handling playmaking duties. However, based on Paul's most recent stints in Golden State and San Antonio, he's already shown he can adapt to that sixth-man role without ego. He understands that leading the second unit and managing critical game moments is as important as starting. From a front office perspective, Paul's acquisition also signals a short-term investment. At 40, he's not part of the Lakers' long-term future. But in the present, his value could be immense, not only for performance but for stability. General Manager Rob Pelinka and the Lakers brass have often emphasized the importance of championship-caliber experience. Paul adds that in spades. Then there's the ripple effect. Adding Paul could make Los Angeles a more attractive destination for other veterans seeking minimum contracts. Players on the fringes of contention often look for locker rooms with leadership, clarity, and title potential. Paul's presence, alongside LeBron and Davis, could influence other dominoes to fall in favor of the Lakers. But time is a factor. Free agency is a fast-moving current. If the Lakers hesitate too long or fail to create the financial space necessary, other teams, like the Dallas Mavericks, could step in. Dallas, for instance, can offer a more defined role behind Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, as well as a more aggressive offer, depending on how they manage their own payroll. Still, league insiders suggest that Paul's heart remains in Los Angeles. There is also the looming possibility that Paul could wait out the initial frenzy of free agency before signing. He may allow the Lakers to finalize other priorities before slotting in. That strategy would require patience and trust. In many ways, Paul is walking a tightrope. He wants to compete for a title, but he also wants control. Few franchises can offer both. The Lakers might be one of the few exceptions, especially if LeBron James, who has long had significant influence on personnel moves, actively supports the signing. Fans too have a stake in this. While some may question the idea of adding another aging veteran to an already experienced roster, others see the move as low risk, high reward. For the price of a mid-level contract, the Lakers could gain a stabilizing presence who improves the team's execution, depth, and professionalism. The basketball fit is logical. The personal connection is strong. The financial path, while narrow, is feasible. Now it's a matter of timing, trust, and commitment. If both sides move with clarity and urgency, a deal could materialize quickly. But in the business of basketball, nothing is final until ink meets paper. For now, all signs point in one direction: a mutual interest between Chris Paul and the Lakers. And sometimes that's all it takes to start a new chapter. One built not just on numbers or strategy but on belief. There are certain moments in NBA history that feel less like footnotes and more like turning points, events that shape not only the trajectory of careers but of entire franchises. One such moment occurred in December 2011, when the league famously vetoed a trade that would have sent Chris Paul to the Los Angeles Lakers. It's a wound that never fully healed. Back then, Paul was in his prime, an elite point guard with the New Orleans Hornets. The Lakers, still basking in the afterglow of the Kobe Pau era, had engineered a bold three-team deal to bring CP3 to Los Angeles and form a new super team. But in a rare and controversial move, then-Commissioner David Stern, acting as the steward of the Hornets, a league-owned team at the time, blocked the trade, citing basketball reasons. The fallout was seismic. Paul was eventually traded to the Clippers instead, igniting the Lob City era but never achieving true postseason success. Meanwhile, the Lakers began their slow descent into instability, a far cry from the dynasty they hoped to continue. For many fans, the blocked trade remains the ultimate what if. Over a decade later, the script is being rewritten. While Chris Paul is no longer the athletic marvel he was in 2011, he's evolved into something arguably more powerful. A mentor, a strategist, a survivor. His value now comes not from raw explosiveness, but from wisdom, command, and surgical control of the game. And though his potential arrival in Los Angeles would be delayed, it wouldn't be diminished in meaning. This reunion, if it happens, is not about nostalgia. It's about closure. Paul has always carried himself with a chip on his shoulder, driven by missed opportunities and near misses. In 2018, he was one hamstring injury away from reaching the NBA Finals with the Houston Rockets. In 2021, he got there with the Suns, only to fall short against Giannis Antetokounmpo's Bucks. His entire career is a story of being just shy of the summit. The Lakers, too, are looking for redemption of their own. Since their 2020 championship in the Orlando bubble, the franchise has struggled with inconsistency, roster churn, and a growing gap between expectation and execution. Adding Paul wouldn't just be a strategic move, it would be a symbolic one. A gesture that says, there's still unfinished business. And the fans understand this. Chris Paul is not the villain some once perceived during his Clippers years. Time has softened the rivalry. Today he is respected, even beloved, by basketball purists. His leadership, his fight, his poise under pressure have won over many who once rooted against him. A CP3 Lakers jersey wouldn't just be a new piece of merchandise. It would be a symbol of reconciliation between a player and a city that almost embraced him long ago. Even the Lakers' organizational culture seems primed for his arrival now more than ever. Jeannie Buss, Rob Pelinka, and the entire front office have doubled down on building a team culture centered on veteran experience, accountability, and high IQ basketball. Paul fits that mold perfectly. His presence would amplify what already exists and fill the leadership vacuum that occasionally forms when LeBron is off the court. In essence, it wouldn't be about building around Paul, it would be about letting him strengthen what's already there. The emotional weight of this decision is not lost on Paul either. He's a family man. His children are growing up. His priorities have shifted. Playing in Los Angeles would allow him to stay rooted, close to home, close to what matters most. Every road trip becomes easier when your family's at the end of it. Every win more meaningful when shared with those who've seen the sacrifices. For someone who has given so much to the game, this feels like the right return. And in a league that so often moves without sentiment, where players are traded mid-game and loyalty is a slogan, not a standard, this opportunity represents something rare. A choice made not out of desperation but of destiny. If this is to be Paul's final season, it deserves a stage worthy of the moment. The Staples Center, now Crypto.com Arena, under the bright lights of Los Angeles, alongside his best friend and fellow future Hall of Famer, what better setting could there be? This is more than a roster move. It's a narrative long in the making, now waiting for its final act. There are very few bonds in sports as enduring, and as intriguing, as the one between Chris Paul and LeBron James. Both entered the NBA in the early 2000s, rising stars from different cities but with the same fire. Over the years, they've grown from young competitors to close confidants, business partners, and most importantly, lifelong friends. Together with Dwayne Wade and Carmelo Anthony, they form the core of what fans often call the Banana Boat Brotherhood. But while Wade and LeBron famously joined forces in Miami to win championships, and Melo eventually suited up alongside James in Los Angeles, Paul has always remained on the outside of that shared on-court legacy. Now, at the twilight of their careers, that final puzzle piece might fall into place. For years, fans and analysts have speculated about what it would look like if CP3 and LeBron finally became teammates. Two of the highest basketball IQs in NBA history. Two on-court generals, both capable of manipulating the flow of the game like chess masters. Together, they would represent nearly 40 years of NBA experience, thousands of games played, and countless lessons learned. But this isn't just a reunion of friends, it's a collision of leadership styles that could elevate the Lakers in ways no stat sheet can quantify. LeBron's leadership is charismatic, physical, and global. He sets the tone with relentless preparation, elite conditioning, and an unmatched command of media and narrative. Paul's leadership is intense, surgical, and sometimes confrontational. He leads with grit, repetition, and detail. Where LeBron inspires, CP3 sharpens. Where LeBron expands the vision, Paul enforces the standard. Together they would create balance. And, perhaps, a rare harmony in a locker room that has sometimes struggled to maintain consistent energy and accountability. There's also the comfort of familiarity. Paul and LeBron know each other deeply, not just as athletes but as men. They've shared off-season workouts, family vacations, business ventures, and personal milestones. That trust would translate directly into team chemistry, allowing for seamless communication in critical moments. No need for sugarcoating, no fear of egos clashing, just two veterans chasing the same goal. More than that, there's a sense of mutual understanding that only a handful of players in NBA history can truly appreciate. Both entered the league with enormous expectations. Both have carried franchises on their backs. Both have endured criticism, defeat, and doubt. And both, now in the final chapters of their storied careers, are searching for something deeper than stats or accolades. They're chasing legacy. For LeBron, the addition of Paul would be a strategic move as much as an emotional one. With minutes piling up and age advancing, James needs someone he trusts to run the offense when he rests. Paul isn't just capable, he's perfect for the role. He can control tempo, find the open man, slow the game when needed, and bring poise to any lineup. For Paul, joining LeBron isn't about playing second fiddle, it's about finally sharing the floor with someone who's walked the same path. Someone who knows the pressure, the sacrifice, the responsibility that comes with being the face. Their chemistry, built over 2 decades off the court, could now be unleashed on the hardwood. The idea isn't without precedent. We've seen aging stars unite for one final push, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. But in this case, the potential benefits far outweigh the risks. Both players are selfless enough to adjust, wise enough to defer when needed, and driven enough to push through pain, fatigue, and noise. It wouldn't be a super team. It would be a statement that after all the detours, injuries, and politics that kept them apart, the universe might finally be offering one more shot, together. And if that happens, every pass, every timeout huddle, every shared glance during a crunch time possession would carry weight. For them. For the team. For the game itself. It wouldn't just be 2 legends on the same roster. It would be 2 brothers writing their final chapter, side by side. At this stage in his career, Chris Paul's value goes far beyond the stat sheet. Yes, he can still deliver clutch mid-range jumpers, control the pace of a game, and organize an offense like few in NBA history. But perhaps his greatest contribution to the Los Angeles Lakers, should he arrive, would be his presence in the locker room. The modern NBA is increasingly defined by youth, athleticism, potential, long-term development. But young talent without guidance often flounders. What the Lakers have struggled with over the past few years isn't a lack of skill, it's consistency, maturity, and discipline. That's where Paul enters the equation. He's not just a future Hall of Famer. He's a teacher. During his short time with the Oklahoma City Thunder in 2020, Paul helped develop a relatively anonymous team into a playoff force. His mentorship of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is now widely recognized as a foundational piece of SGA's ascension to stardom. In Phoenix, he brought structure to a young Suns core, guiding Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton to their first NBA Finals. Paul brings order. He brings habits. He brings accountability. For a Lakers roster that includes young players like Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and Max Christie, Paul could serve as a stabilizing force, teaching the nuances of professional preparation, the difference between playing in the NBA and thriving in it. He's a man who knows every defensive rotation, every spacing cue, every late-game scenario. Younger players often speak about how simply being around CP3 elevates their awareness. He quizzes teammates on plays, challenges them in film sessions, and expects daily improvement. He holds the room to a higher standard, not out of ego but out of love for the craft. And this isn't theoretical. His track record proves it. In a league where stars often take nights off, Chris Paul remains the ultimate professional. Last season with the Spurs, despite being one of the oldest players in the league, he suited up for all 82 games. That example alone, showing up, day after day regardless of pain or standings, is a quiet sermon on resilience and responsibility. Coaches value that kind of presence. Front offices covet it. But players, especially young ones, need it. LeBron James, for all his greatness, can't be everywhere. He can't guide every young Laker through shooting slumps, defensive lapses, or off-court distractions. That's where a voice like Paul's fills the void. Not with grandeur, but with honest, daily mentorship. The kind that changes careers, not just seasons. There's also an emotional intelligence to Paul that makes him uniquely suited for this role. He knows when to push and when to protect. He understands that development isn't linear, that confidence is fragile, and that sometimes the greatest assist is off the court. A quiet word in the hallway, a film session after practice, a call late at night. In many ways, Paul has evolved into the archetype of the veteran leader. Wise, demanding, yet deeply invested in those around him. He takes pride not only in what he achieves, but in what he helps others become. And that's exactly what the Lakers need. Beyond the glitz, beyond the chase for banners, the true measure of a franchise is its culture. If the Lakers want to build a sustainable contender, not just a yearly experiment, they must infuse the team with veterans who live the values they preach. Paul embodies that ethos. Whether he's running the second unit or sitting on the bench in the closing minutes of a blowout, his voice carries. His presence matters. And for young Lakers trying to find their place in the league, having a mentor like Chris Paul beside them might be the difference between becoming a role player and becoming a star. In the NBA, no move happens in isolation. Every trade, every signing, every rotation tweak sends subtle signals throughout the league, changing dynamics, altering expectations, and in some cases rewriting narratives. The potential arrival of Chris Paul to the Los Angeles Lakers would be no exception. On the surface, it might seem like a small move, a 40-year-old veteran signing for a mid-level contract. But in reality, it would echo far beyond the confines of Crypto.com arena. First, there's the matter of perception. The Lakers, for all their tradition and star power, have struggled in recent seasons to present a coherent long-term vision. Constant roster changes, coaching switches, and playoff disappointments have created a sense of instability. Bringing in a player like Chris Paul, respected, experienced, selfless, sends a different kind of message, that Los Angeles is once again a destination for players who want to win the right way. That perception matters. Veterans chasing one last ring often choose teams based on culture, not just cap space. If Paul signs, it could spark a wave of interest from other players on the fringes of contention. Names like Joe Ingles, Otto Porter Jr., or even former Lakers looking for a return. The presence of CP3 could shift the franchise from uncertain to solid, even without major trades. More importantly, his arrival could impact the power balance in the Western Conference. The West is deep, unpredictable, and fiercely competitive. Denver remains the team to beat. Minnesota is rising. Golden State, Dallas, and Sacramento all have talent and ambition. But few of those teams boast the level of experience, floor intelligence, and leadership trio that LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Chris Paul would form. If managed properly, the Lakers could become a playoff nightmare. Imagine a second unit run by Paul, spacing the floor with Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura, while Davis rests and LeBron watches from the bench. Then imagine close fourth quarters where Paul runs pick and rolls with AD, LeBron floats as a wing creator, and the defense has to choose between collapsing or surrendering open shots. That isn't just a nice theoretical setup. It's a realistic game plan, and teams across the league know it. Front offices would adjust accordingly. If CP3 signs, don't be surprised to see rival GMs make sudden calls to bolster their bench units or tighten their guard rotations. Contenders like the Suns or Clippers, both former Paul homes, might accelerate trade talks, knowing the Lakers are retooling intelligently, not just loudly. Even younger teams like the Thunder and Pelicans would feel the pressure. With LeBron nearing retirement and Paul in his final stretch, the window for the Lakers is small, but real. And when a legend sees the door open, the rest of the field tends to step aside or step up. On a more personal level, CP3's decision could reshape his legacy. Despite all his accomplishments, multiple All-Star selections, All-NBA teams, Olympic gold, he remains without a championship. That absence haunts every conversation about his place among the greats. If he wins a ring in Los Angeles, especially alongside LeBron, it would cement his status not just as a brilliant floor general, but as a champion who endured every obstacle and finally overcame. It would silence the critics. It would rewrite the headlines. And for a player who has been labeled everything from too intense to snake-bitten, it would offer redemption on the grandest stage. There's also the impact on LeBron's legacy. By recruiting CP3 and potentially sharing the floor with him in his final years, James continues to redefine what longevity and leadership look like in the modern NBA. He isn't just collecting stars, he's building a circle of trust, a culture of accountability, a closing act worthy of his historic career. In short, the signing wouldn't just affect the Lakers. It would reverberate through scouting reports, playoff strategies, and media cycles across the league. And even if the box scores don't always show it, the presence of Chris Paul would be felt in every timeout, every possession, every moment that calls for calm in the chaos. That's the power of reputation. That's the power of legacy. That's the ripple effect of a legend making one last, calculated move. Every great journey eventually approaches its final chapters, but with those endings come new beginnings, fresh opportunities to rewrite history, to inspire, and to leave a lasting mark. For Chris Paul, joining the Los Angeles Lakers in this pivotal moment isn't just about chasing another title. It's about defining what legacy truly means. Throughout his career, CP3 has been the quintessential competitor. Known for his relentless drive, unparalleled court vision, and fierce leadership, he's earned the respect of teammates, opponents, and fans alike. Yet, despite all the accolades and highlights, the elusive NBA championship remains out of reach, a reminder of how fleeting and fragile success can be in professional sports. But legacy isn't only measured by trophies. It's measured by character. By the way a player carries himself through adversity. By the mentorship given to the next generation. And by the impact left on a franchise, a city, and the sport itself. In Los Angeles, Chris Paul would find fertile ground to plant those seeds. The Lakers are a franchise rich with history, passion, and expectation. The bright lights of the city offer both pressure and promise. A stage worthy of a player whose career has been defined by precision and perseverance. If Paul's arrival comes to fruition, it could usher in a renaissance, not just for him but for the team as a whole. He would bring stability to a roster in flux, wisdom to a locker room searching for direction, and experience to a coaching staff eager for steady leadership. Together with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, Paul would form a triumvirate capable of competing with any team in the league. Beyond the hardwood, his influence could resonate deeply throughout the organization, instilling professionalism, work ethic, and a culture of accountability that might define the Lakers for years to come. For the fans, it would be a storybook moment. The narrative of a beloved veteran returning home, embracing the challenge of leading a storied franchise back to glory, and doing so alongside his closest friend and fiercest competitor. It's a tale of redemption, friendship, and unfinished business. Yet, as with all great stories, uncertainty remains. Injuries, chemistry, and the unpredictable nature of basketball always play their part. No one can guarantee a championship. But what is certain is that the Lakers, and the NBA, would be watching a legend who refuses to fade quietly, who chooses instead to fight for every last moment. Chris Paul's potential journey with the Lakers embodies more than just basketball. It reflects the universal human desire for connection, purpose, and meaning at every stage of life. As the next season approaches, one question lingers. Will the final act be written in purple and gold? If it is, it won't just be a signing. It will be a statement. A promise that great players don't just chase rings, they build legacies. And in the City of Angels, where dreams and reality collide, Chris Paul might just find his ultimate homecoming.